comrades and friends. Welcome to the program Global Weekly News, serial number 151. First, we go to Moscow to observe Victory Parade. Moscow Victory Parade. With a traditional Victory Parade, Russian authorities marked the 88th anniversary of Soviet Union's victory over Nazi Germany in 1945. On 9th May, thousands of troops and guests gathered in Moscow to commemorate the Red Army's contribution to the liberation of Europe. Among the attendees were Chinese President Xi Jinping, Burkina Faso President Ibrahim Traore, and a number of progressive Latin American leaders. Also present were representatives of Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, and others. Many of the visiting heads of state used their time in Russia to engage in mutual talks on industrial and technological cooperation, to launch new bilateral initiatives, and to have the memory of and to honor the memory of socialist figures and global South contributors to the fight against fascism and Nazism. Several of them, including Xi Jinping, used their meetings with Russian President Vladimir Putin to link the legacy of the anti-fascist struggle to today's context, criticizing NATO's expansion eastward and Western efforts to sustain global dominance. Putin stated at the opening of the parade, "We give credit to members of the resistance who bravely fought Nazism as well as the troops of the Allied armies of the US, Great Britain and other countries. We remember and honor the achievements of Chinese soldiers in the fight against Japanese militarism." In his speech, Putin also criticized what he described as a renewed Western push for global supremacy at all costs. They plunder, indulge in violence and suppression. They seem to have forgotten what the Nazis' insane claims of global dominance led them to. They forgot who destroyed that monstrous total evil, who stood up for their native land and did not spare their lives to liberate the peoples of Europe. As troops marched across Red Square to mark the liberation anniversary, European leaders turned their attention elsewhere. There was no mention of the Soviet Union's role in the Second World War by European Union officials, who instead celebrated Europe Day, marking the 75th anniversary of the Schuman Declaration. The French Foreign Minister Robert Schuman on 9th May 1950, 75 years ago, proposed the creation of a European coal and steel community, which would later be opened to other European countries. The ultimate goal was to pacify relations, especially between France and West Germany, through gradual political integration. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen described the years that followed as the longest era of peace and prosperity for the European Union's members, despite a current reality that contradicts that narrative and promotes militarization and armaments. Meanwhile, European Union High Representative Kaja Kallas traveled to Ukraine to reaffirm the bloc's military support for the Zelensky administration and announced the unilateral launch of a special tribunal targeting Russia's military operations. As Kallas claimed that every inch of Russia's war has been documented and that there could be no room for impunity, the European Union continued to ignore Israel's live-streamed genocide in Gaza and dismissed calls to cut off all ties with the apartheid regime of Israel. Second item, comrades, new revolution in Gambia. This is in Africa. Yahya Jammeh, who ruled from 1994 until his ouster in 2017, was removed during what is now known as the Gambian revolution. He currently lives in exile in Equatorial Guinea. His regime was notorious for grave human rights violations, including torture, forced disappearances, and the suppression of dissent. At least 27 protesters and 2 journalists were arrested on 8th May in the capital of the Gambia during a peaceful demonstration organized by the civic group Gambians Against Looted Assets, GALA. The protest targeted the controversial sale of properties and businesses formerly owned by ex-President Yahya Jammeh amid growing public concern that the assets are being sold at prices far below market value and distributed in a non-transparent, politically based biased manner. The detainees were released over the weekend. The demonstrators sought to present a petition demanding that Jammeh's vast wealth, widely understood to be the proceeds of large-scale corruption, be placed under public ownership rather than discreetly sold off to politically connected individuals. In response, the Gambian government asserted that the asset sales were conducted lawfully and in the public interest. A key point of reference in this controversy is the 2019 report by a government-commissioned inquiry, the Jinnah Commission, which was set up in 2017 to investigate financial misconduct during Jammeh's 22-year rule. The commission reported that the former leader embezzled approximately $36.2 crore in state funds. However, an extensive investigation conducted by the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project exposes for the first time how Jammeh and his associates plundered nearly $100 crore of timber resources and Gambia's public funds. GALA means Gambians Against Looted Assets. The GALA organization has urged Gambians to attend the extraordinary session of the National Assembly, where the investigative report on the asset sales will be discussed. We believe that through youth-led activism, both at home and in the diaspora, we can bring an end to corruption and restore integrity to our public institutions, GALA said. Third item, comrades. China-US agree to reduce tariffs. China and the United States agreed to roll back high tariffs imposed on one another last month for a period of 90 days. The agreement was announced in a joint statement issued on 12th May. The agreement was a result of a high-level meeting on trade and economic affairs held between Chinese and US delegations in Geneva, Switzerland over the weekend. Both sides have agreed to reduce the tariffs by 115%. That would mean that the United States will reduce its tariffs on China to 30% from its present 145%, while the Chinese will lower their tariffs to 10% from its present 125%. So there is a reduction of 115%. These new tariffs would be effective for the next 90 days. Both the countries also agreed to explore a more stable arrangement in the interim period. China also agreed to reverse additional measures imposed in response to US President Donald Trump's tariff war, such as putting various US companies on the sanctions list and placing export controls on rare earth minerals. The 30% US tariff includes a 10% baseline tariff imposed on all imports by Trump in April after suspending his reciprocal tariff regime for 90 days, and a 20% tariff of US imposed by the Trump administration before April in the name of stopping the illegal flow of drug fentanyl. The Chinese Foreign Ministry criticized that the US truly wants to cooperate with China. It should stop shifting the blame and advise the US to seek dialogue with China based on equality, respect and mutual benefit. The tariff war between the world's leading economies was seen as a disaster for the global economy and trade. A large number of US businesses had also opposed Trump's tariff war. They had claimed that high tariffs may lead to a rise in prices which harm both the consumer and domestic production. Several businesses filed lawsuits in the US claiming Trump's reciprocal tariff regime was illegal and harmful for their ability to do business. Both the countries have agreed to establish a joint mechanism to continue the trade and economic negotiations in future. Fourth item, comrades. China deepens Latin American ties. On 12th May, representatives of the governments of the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, CELAC, which includes 33 member countries of the region, and the Chinese government met in Beijing, China. The purpose of the meeting was to develop a roadmap for expanding trade between China and the CELAC member countries. Chinese Secretary of State Wang Yi said it will be an opportunity to reflect on the valuable experience of a decade of mutual benefit and equality to chart the trade course for the next 10 years. China has emerged as the main economic partner in several countries of the Latin American region, which has caused some tension with the US. Lula da Silva, President of Brazil, attended the meeting. He said in a press conference, China is currently Brazil's main trading partner and possibly the largest recipient of products produced by our country. Gustavo Petro, President of Colombia, said that his country can join the so-called New Silk Road. Regarding a photograph taken of President Xi Jinping and several Latin American leaders, Gustavo Petro said, this photo seeks to revive multilateralism, for Europe to gain independence, for bombs not to fall on Gaza but food. That the main objective of humanity today is not war, but to decarbonize the economy to live. Cuban State Secretary welcomed the initiative of the Silk Road project of China. Gabriel Boric, President of Chile, said that it was an honor for him to participate in the China CELAC Forum meeting in Beijing. As per a British Broadcasting Corporation BBC report, the exchange of goods between China and Latin America exceeded $48,000 crore in 2023. This exchange was only $1,400 crore in the first year of the 21st century. In the case of the Caribbean countries, China is already the second largest trading partner. The main export products to China are soybeans, minerals, oil, copper cathodes and beef. For its part, China exports mainly manufactured products to Latin America. Coming to these Caribbean countries means famously known as West Indies. The growing trade with China of the Latin American countries has already alarmed the US. Fifth item, comrades. Now we go to Calcutta. Left parties lead anti-war protests in Calcutta. Thousands of people marched across the streets of central Kolkata on 13th May to denounce warmongering and growing religious polarizations in India. This rally saw a large turnout after a similar rally organized by left intellectuals, human rights groups and student organizations on 12th May, which was attacked by a counter mobilization from BJP. On 13th May, people holding banners and placards marched from Esplanade to Sealda, shouting anti-war slogans and carrying banners and posters with a message of peace. The rally denounced attempts by the Hindu right wing to incite religious passion in the religious emotions in the name of war against Pakistan, and urged the government of India to immediately begin diplomatic engagements with the neighboring country to resolve all outstanding issues. India and Pakistan emerged as two nations after the end of Britain's centuries-long colonial occupation of India in 1947. The partition of India on the lines of religious identity led to large-scale violence which killed over 10 lakh people. Since then, both countries claim several unresolved issues, Kashmir being the most important, and have fought 3 major wars and 1 minor war so far. The rally was jointly organized by Communist Party of India Marxist, Communist Party of India, Communist Party of India Marxist-Leninist Liberation, Forward Bloc and SUCI. Several top leaders of the left parties joined the rally, demanded that the Modi-led government be held accountable for its repeated failures to stop the violence against the innocent civilians in Kashmir. The media and right-wing groups continued to incite passions around the war, emotions around the war. A spike in anti-Muslim attacks was also recorded. The people of India do not want war. The speakers in the rally criticized the war frenzy and hysteria created by the media, calling for an end to their fake news and warmongering. The speeches welcomed the May 10 ceasefire announcement. The speakers welcomed the May 10 ceasefire announcement. There is a wider consensus in India and the involvement of the US in any mediation with Pakistan. M.A. Baby, the General Secretary of the Communist Party of India Marxist, recently wrote to Modi asking him to clarify the situation. He reiterated the opposition's demand for a special session of the Parliament to set the record straight. 6th item, comrades, Israel's brutal blockade. As news reports warn of a growing likelihood of famine spreading across the Gaza Strip by the end of September. The markets are completely empty. No eggs, no meat, no fruit, not even vegetables. What little food is available is too expensive. According to the recent Integrated Food Security Pace Classification Report, the price of wheat flour has increased 3,000% since February, with a 25 kg bag now costing between $235 to $520 depending on the area. Between May 7 and May 12, the number of meals prepared in the community kitchens dropped from 8,40,000 to 2,60,000. So there is a famine warning in Gaza Strip by the end of September. Israel actions are very, very barbaric, supported by that brutal US imperialism. 7th item, comrades. 11 Ecuadorian soldiers killed. On 9th May, 11 Ecuadorian military personnel were killed in the Amazonian province of Orellana. These soldiers were conducting inspection and control operations against illegal mining activities. The criminal group, border commandos, may be the culprits. The army and the national police offered a $50 lakh as a reward to anyone who helps locate the attack's perpetrators. The army announced the immediate mobilization of 1,500 soldiers to find the culprits. President of Ecuador, Daniel Noboa, ordered a national mourning on May 10, 11 and 12 in honor of the assassinated soldiers. The first quarter of this year ended with 2,361 violent deaths, 65% more than those registered in the same period in 2024. A few days ago, more than a dozen Peruvian miners were reportedly killed by armed groups linked to illegal mining. This could be the beginning of a transnational problem that threatens the national sovereignty of countries in the face of a market eager for metals and willing to challenge the territorial control of Amazonian states. Lastly, comrades, anti-Palestinian repression against Germany. Across Germany, anti-Palestinian repression or suppression across Germany. The European Legal Support Center launched a database on May 13th on anti-Palestinian repression in Germany. The database currently documents 766 incidents detailing a wide range of violations. The most frequent are cases of censorship and smearing, legal repercussions, and police persecution, primarily targeting activists, students, and cultural organizations. Anti-Palestinian repression in Europe means being deported, kicked out of schools, kicked out of universities, or kicked out of workplaces, beaten by the police, or criminalized in the courts for calling out complicity in genocide and settler colonialism. Thank you, comrades. La salam. See you next week.